This center will be able to go beyond simply identifying the components of a sample and instead look at markets to determine how and where the substances were manufactured. Knowing that transnational organized crime groups depend on illicit money to keep their
The Honourable Secretary of State will have 3.5 minutes left after question period. Déclaration de députés, statements by members. The Honourable Member for Winnipeg Centre.
Mr. Speaker, after being elected as the Member of Parliament for Winnipeg Centre for the third time, I rise to express my sincere gratitude to my family, my campaign team, our Winnipeg Centre team, and all those who gave me their support this election. Regardless of whether you voted for me, I am committed to work to gain your trust and to do my best to be your voice in Ottawa. I will waste no time ensuring our community receives the attention it deserves. Today is World Environment Day, and yet our province is in a state of emergency due to the wildfires, which are becoming the new normal. We must act to address this climate emergency. I uplift all frontline workers, risking their lives, leaderships advocating on their behalf of their communities, community members taking evacuees into their homes, Indigenous rights holders, and climate leaders who refuse to sit back and let the planet burn, including one we are joined by today, Dr. David Suzuki.
Hear, hear.
The Honourable Member for Surrey Newton.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize the Newton.
The Honourable Member for Surrey Newton can take it from the top.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize the Newton Tennis Club, a remarkable volunteer-driven organization in my riding. Founded in 2019, the organization has grown to nearly 150 members and has built state-of-the-art facility through partnership with City of Surrey. The club runs a strong youth program and hosts the popular Surrey Open tournament. This past Sunday, I was proud to attend their annual food drive, an inspiring community event where members came together to support local food banks. The Newton Tennis Club continues to show true community spirit, athletic excellence, and a commitment to giving back. It is a great example of how sports can bring people together and make our communities stronger.
Right on.
Honourable Member for Tobique-Mactaquac.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to thank again the great people of Tobique-Mactaquac for the honour of serving them here in the People's House. I also want to express my deep gratitude to my wife, Crystal, our family, and the dedicated team of staff who do the important work every day so that we can be here. I couldn't do this without them. In the days ahead, we will continue to champion those who are too often overlooked and forgotten. The bucket carriers, the table waiters, the farmers, the builders, and the workers. These hardworking Canadians, past and present, form the foundation of our great country, and they will be the key to our nation's comeback. We as the opposition will offer a clear alternative vision to Canadians, a vision that encourages increased Canadian self-reliance, security, and prosperity for all, a vision that brings us together from every region, both urban and rural, to ensure that our beloved nation always remains the true north, strong and free. Mr. Speaker, though the waters we face are turbulent, I still believe that our best days are yet ahead. And as our beloved national anthem declares, may God continue to keep our land glorious.
The Honourable Member for Scarborough North.
Mr. Speaker, 2 weekends ago, I was pleased to participate in the annual Doors Open Toronto event by visiting a storied institution in my riding of Scarborough North. For over 175 years, Knox United Church, in the heart of the former village of Agincourt, has stood as a beacon of faith, compassion, and community service. On June 25, 1848, Knox held its first worship service and communion in a wood-frame building attended by 40 congregants. In 1872, the church was rebuilt, resulting resulting in its enduring brick structure that remains a prominent example of Gothic Revival architecture. Today, Knox lives by its motto, diverse in culture, united in faith, opening its doors to share the stories and deep legacy within the brickwork of this iconic church. To the Church Council Chair and former MPP David Warner, Minister Bright Yun, and the entire staff team, volunteers and members, my deepest gratitude and congratulations. Merci.
For Brantford, Brant, South Six Nations.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians are living in fear. Violent crime is up 50%, gang-related homicides 78%, and gun crime has skyrocketed 116%. These are not just numbers. They reflect shattered families, terrified communities, and lives forever changed. And the heartbreaking truth is this: many of these crimes are being committed by repeat violent offenders, individuals who should have never been out on streets in the first place. Why? Because of the Liberal government's so-called justice reforms, Bill C-5 and 75, which enshrined the principle of restraint into law and weakened and gutted our bail system. Police chiefs, premiers, frontline officers, and victim families are pleading for change. It's time to listen. And that starts by repealing Bill C-5 and 75 and replacing them with real reforms that put public safety first, because protecting our communities should never be a partisan issue. Canadians deserve better.
The Honourable Member for Ottawa-Vanier-Gloucester. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's with great humility that I rise today for my first statement of this 45th Parliament. I would sincerely like to thank the people of Ottawa-Vanier-Gloucester who've renewed their faith in me for a fourth mandate. None of this would have been possible without the incredible support of hundreds of volunteers, my campaign team, and my family. And welcome to the community of Blackburn Hamlet, which is now part of our riding.
I remain committed to advancing the issues that matter to our citizens. We're addressing affordability with a middle class cut, and we're building one strong, fair, and united Canadian economy for everyone. From affordable housing to the revitalization of our downtown core, including the Byward Market, to protecting the public service, I am committed to strengthening the vibrancy of our neighborhoods. Thank you once again to the residents, my family, volunteers, and my team. It's a privilege to represent you in the House of Commons.
Well done. Well done. The Honourable Member for Richmond Hill South.
Mr. Speaker, after 10 years of this Liberal government, Canada is barely recognizable. We used to be a country where seniors could walk to the park in peace and where parents could let their kids walk to the school safely, but not anymore. Just yesterday, the York Regional Police executed 15 search warrants in Richmond Hill and neighboring communities against criminal organizations. 23 people arrested, over 300 charges laid, 32 legal firearms seized, and 700,000 doses of fentanyl, enough to kill a city, were found. In another case from the Toronto Police, 10 criminals were arrested after a mass shooting on March 7th. Multiple guns were seized. 200 criminal charges were laid, including 24 counts of murder. This is what happens when the Liberals govern with ideology instead of common sense. It's time to punish organized crime, stop the flow of deadly drugs across our borders, keep criminals behind bars, and bring home safety to our streets. Enough is enough. The Liberal government needs to stop handcuffing our police officers and finally start handcuffing the criminals and keep them in jail.
Here, here. Honourable Member for Brampton South.
I rise today to share my heartfelt congratulations to all the graduates of 2025 from Brampton South and across Canada. Graduation marks the completion of years of hard work and perseverance. Through their academic journey, each graduate has shown incredible growth as a young scholar and Canadian. To all the parents, teachers, and mentors, thank you for all your hard work to support our graduates in their path of dreams. As the 2025 graduate class embarks on a new chapter filled with possibilities, I would like to wish every graduate all the best in their future endeavors, and I look forward to celebrating their continued successes. Congratulations to Class 2025 and best wishes.
The Honourable Member for Montmorency-Charlevoix. Mr. Speaker, the price of homes is skyrocketing across Canada. If you look at Toronto in particular, the market has collapsed by 89% in recent months if you compare it with the last 10 years. and the market's been in crisis for 7 consecutive months. Imagine the extent to which it's problematic in Montmorency-Charlevoix. It's so hard to find homes, and businesses are unable to attract workers to come work in our region, so there's a major economic impact due to the lack of housing. We need to bring back common sense to our policies and do what the Conservative Party has proposed. We need to cut taxes, build the homes, and give the dream of home ownership back to Canadians so that all families can live in beautiful regions like Montmorency-Charlevoix. The Honourable Member for Repentigny. Mr. Speaker, today let us mark World Environment Day. The theme this year is ending plastic pollution. Every year, Canadians throw away more than 3 million tons of plastic waste. This waste weighs on our economy, and it threatens people's health. It also threatens our wildlife, our rivers, our lakes, and our oceans. And more than 99% of plastic is made using fossil fuels. So it's the same people who are poisoning us with their oil and their gas who are also filling every corner of the planet, from the bottom of the oceans to our dinner plates, with plastic. In 2 months, countries from around the world will meet to adopt a worldwide treaty to get out of plastic. The best way to fix this problem is very simple. It's to produce less plastic. And there are alternatives that already exist. We shouldn't be filling the pockets of the oil and gas sector. Rather, we should be protecting our environment and leaving clean water for our children. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Vancouver Quadra.
I rose to ask a question, and in the interest of time, I was not able to introduce myself. I'm the proud member representing the people from Vancouver Quadra, and I am the very first member of the Musqueam First Nation to hold the seat in this House. I want to thank my family, I want to thank my volunteers, I want to thank those that helped me on my campaign, and especially my son Eli, my daughter Isla, my fiancée Marie, and my predecessor, the Honourable Joyce Murray, for all the work that she did in this House as well. Hear, hear. I want to make sure that I move forward. We've always welcomed people in Vancouver Quadra. We welcomed Captain Narvaez in the 1700s. We welcomed my grandfather Hong Tim Hing in the 1920s. And we continue to welcome people from around the world. And I'll continue to work for each and every one of them. I say, Hai Chikasiam in my language, which means thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Hear, hear. The member for Abbotsford South Langley.
Canada had a balanced, effective immigration system. It worked for newcomers, Canadians, and our country. But after 10 years of the Liberal government, the system is in chaos. Liberals ignored warnings, cut corners on application vetting, opened doors for fraud and abuse in the temporary foreign worker, refugee, and international student programs. Now, over 1 million people are here with expired visa or expiring visas, and there is still no plan to address it. Canada now has the highest population growth in the G7, and the OECD confirms that the high immigration is straining our housing, our jobs, and our healthcare. Despite this, the Liberals issued 180,000 temporary foreign worker permits this year alone, a 10% increase from last quarter. This isn't sustainable. Canadians know it, the OECD and the Bank of Canada knows it. Why don't the Liberals?
Yes. Member for Mississauga, Aaron Mills.
Mr. Speaker, it's been 4 years since we lost the Afzal family, Madiha, Salman, Dalit, Yumna, in a horrific Islamophobic attack that left a 9-year-old orphaned and a community devastated. This was not just a hate crime, it was terrorism, driven by Islamophobia and targeted hate. More and more, we're experiencing violent hate in Canada that breaks hearts, steals lives, and impedes our collective identity. We need to do better. We remember the Afzal family, not just for how their lives ended, but for how they lived with love and with hope for a strong future. Tomorrow, as families gather to celebrate Eid al-Adha, we are reminded that they should have been here too, celebrating and surrounded by loved ones. We owe it to them and to everyone who has ever felt unsafe because of their identity to do better to protect Canadians against hate. Their lives mattered, their stories matter. We will remember, Mr. Speaker, and we will act. Thank you.
Member for Similkameen, South Okanagan, West Kootenay.
Mr.
Mr. Speaker, while knocking on doors this past election, the number one thing I heard at the doors was the skyrocketing price of groceries. I heard from parents about the cost to feed their kids and to put food on the table if prices kept rising. They asked me, where will it stop? We know that food inflation at the grocery store since the start of this year is out of control. Beef up 34%, oranges up 26%, apples up 18%, and rice up 14%. Now, the Liberals are bringing in $500 billion in inflationary spending, increasing spending by 8% when they promised to cap it at 2%. Will the Liberals table a budget that reduces inflation and cuts taxes so Canadians can afford to feed their families?
The Honourable Member for Madawaska-Restigouche. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On May 31st, the community of Val d'Amour in Restigouche celebrated an exceptional volunteer, Mr. Donald Leblanc, whose commitment spans over 50 years through his contribution to local governance, his active participation on many boards of directors and community organizations, his commitment to the Forest Workers Co-op, and his involvement in sports, recreation, and many other areas of community life. Mr. Leblanc has left a lasting mark on his region. As member for Madawaska-Restigouche, I'm honoured to recognise Mr. Leblanc's remarkable career of service, which embodies the values of dedication, solidarity, and public service that are the strength of our communities. I was delighted to be able to attend the evening event held in his honour, and I offer my sincere congratulations to Mr. Leblanc, and I thank him for his passion and for all the time that he's devoted to making a real difference in his community. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
London Fanshawe.
Mr. Speaker, Parliament is demanding a budget from this Liberal government. Our Conservative motion passed requiring the Prime Minister to table a budget this spring. Yet the Liberals think they can spend $500 billion without a budget. Single moms, seniors, and small businesses don't get the luxury of budget-free spending, and neither should this government. Yesterday, the Parliamentary Budget Officer warned clearly the Liberals' reckless spending means higher deficits and exploding interest payments on the federal debt projected to hit $70 billion per year. This means less money for hospitals and healthcare, schools and teachers. Liberals shattered their promise to cap spending at 2%, instead increasing it by 8%. They broke their promise to reduce spending on consultants, ballooning it by 35% to a record-smashing $26 billion, while growing the bureaucracy by 44%. Canadians face nearly 7% unemployment, record-high missed mortgage payments, and food prices driving even full-time workers to food banks. Mr. Speaker, it's time for a responsible budget to reverse this lost decade of labor for liberal waste.
The Honourable Member for Halifax.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to acknowledge World Environment Day and join the global community in recognizing the urgent need to end plastic pollution, this year's theme. In Halifax, surrounded by the Atlantic Ocean, we feel the impact of plastic pollution firsthand. Our marine heritage, vibrant coastal communities, fisheries, and rich ecosystems depend on a healthy environment. We don't see this work as just a necessity, we see it as an opportunity to innovate, to lead, to build a stronger economy, and to create a more resilient future for generations to come. Qu'il s'agisse de s'attaquer à la politique.
Whether it's tackling ocean pollution, advancing clean technology, or restoring natural habitats, Haligonians are stepping up with purpose and determination.
I want to thank Haligonians who are working hard to protect our environment today and every day.
Questions orales, oral questions, the Honourable Member for Calgary East.
The government's budgetary watchdog is sounding the alarm bells that interest on the federal debt will soar past $70 billion in 4 years. Debt interest payments already exceed provincial healthcare transfers, military spending, or total GST revenue. Yet this Prime Minister wants to spend even more money than Justin Trudeau did without tabling a budget. Canadians want to know, on what date will the Liberals table a budget?
L'Honorable Ministre des Finances.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank the member for the question and thank him for doing a great first step this morning, Mr. Speaker. In fact, they voted for the motion, the Ways and Means motions, to do what, Mr. Speaker? To give a break to 22 million Canadians, Mr. Speaker. We told them that Canadians are watching. They watched this morning, but they will watch when we're voting on the main bill, Mr. Speaker. We hope that the Conservative will do the right thing to support Canadians at a time of need, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Calgary East.
That guy should apologize for collecting carbon tax for the last 10 years. Now the OECD says Canada will be hit the hardest in a looming global slowdown as investment flees, that unemployment rises and core inflation climbs. This Prime Minister already broke his promise of capping spending at 2%. Instead, he'll spend 8% and $500 billion of inflationary spending. Why don't the Liberals table a budget today and show Canadians exactly how much more economic vandalism they'll do than Justin Trudeau did?
L'honorable ministre des Finances.
Mr. Speaker, I have more good news for the member if he was to take the time to read. Not only we're giving a break to 22 million Canadians, but we're eliminating the GST for first-time home buyers up to $1 billion, Mr. Speaker. This is a great measure, but not only we're going to be removing the consumer carbon price, Mr. Speaker, from law. All these Conservatives should be celebrating because I know Canadians are celebrating at home today.
Honourable member for Haldimand Norfolk.
And he voted against all of that. Mr. Speaker, I ask you, would you sign a check for $486 billion without knowing where the money was going? That is exactly what this government is asking taxpayers to do. Sign a blank check for $500 billion that will inevitably lead to inflation. Conservatives and the Parliament have voted for the Liberals to produce a budget this spring. So when will this Prime Minister respect the will of Parliament and produce a budget?
Honorable Ministre des Finances.
Mr. Speaker, it's a great day to answer that question, Mr. Speaker, because what the member is asking is what is in the main estimates. So I know that Canadians would be happy to learn that in the main estimates there are credits for dental care, Mr. Speaker, that are helping a lot of seniors across our country. We're talking about credits for child care, Mr. Speaker, and I know there are members, there are people in our riding that are benefiting from that, and we're talking also about farmer care, Mr. Speaker. Those are programs that are part of the fabric in Canada. They make Canada strong, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Haldimand Norfolk.
The people in my riding will benefit when taxes go down. The Parliamentary Budget Officer has confirmed that this government's wasteful spending is costing Canadians $70 billion in interest payments just on the debt. That is more than they're spending on health care. The Liberals are back to their old ways of breaking promises. They broke their promise to cap spending at 2% and increased it by 8%. They broke their promise to cut spending on Liberal consultants and increased that by $7 billion. When will this Prime Minister produce a budget and stop wasting taxpayer dollars?
L'honorable ministre des Finances.
Mr. Speaker, you see the difference between the Conservative and us on this side is that on this side we're proud to support families, Mr. Speaker. We're proud of the dental care program, Mr. Speaker, that is helping our senior. We're proud to have the child care program, Mr. Speaker. And I can tell you, I was at the G7 recently, and colleagues were applauding Canada. Not only it's a great policy, but it's also an economic policy, Mr. Speaker, to generate growth in this country. On this side of the House, we're proud to support Canadians. I just hope the Conservative would come on board, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Essex.
Speaker, let's be clear. Donald Trump's 50% tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum are wrong and unjustified. Facing enormous business and job losses, the very Prime Minister who promised to be elbows up is now allowing trade at the new Gordie Howe Bridge to collapse. The Prime Minister promised retaliatory tariffs to secure $20 billion to support steel and aluminum workers. Will the Prime Minister commit today to table a spring budget, or will he just let his empty promises rust?
The Honourable Minister for Canada-US Trade and Intergovernmental Affairs.
Yeah, keep going, Mr. Speaker. It sounds great. Mr. Speaker, our government received a mandate from Canadians to negotiate a new security and economic partnership with the United States. we entirely share our colleagues' view that the tariffs imposed not only on steel and aluminum at a ridiculously punitive rate of 50% are unjustified and illegal. So are all the other tariffs, Mr. Speaker, imposed on the Canadian economy. That's why Canada responded firmly and clearly, and we also said we'll support our industries and our workers as we get through this together.
The Honourable Member for Chicoutimi-Le-Fjord. Mr. Speaker, tariffs on aluminium imposed by President Trump are unjustified. It's an attack on our economy and on the workers in the sector. We have 4 aluminium mills in my region, 32% of Canadian aluminium production. The Prime Minister said that he was the man for the job. The Prime Minister said that he had a plan. But the reality is that tariffs, have gotten worse. What will he do to protect the workers of the Saguenay? The Honourable Minister responsible for Canada-US trade and intergovernmental affairs. Mr. Speaker, we wholeheartedly share the concerns of our colleague from Chicoutimi and the workers of the Saguenay. There are some of the best workers in Canada. The United States is dependent on Canada's aluminium production, and they decide to impose 50% tariffs. That will harm their economy. We understand that this is a worrying situation for workers and industry in Canada, and that is exactly the reason for which we will support workers, we will support industry. We're working with the government of Quebec and will continue to do so. The Honourable Member for Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, since yesterday, American tariffs on aluminium and steel have doubled, reaching 50%. After 3 months of conflict, time is running out for these industries, but after 3 months, there is still no support. The Prime Minister claims that he is in intensive talks with the Americans, and that's all well and good, but after 3 months, we should no longer be at the stage of intensive talks. We should be at the stage of intensive action. Our industries need cash, and they need wage subsidies. After 3 months of doing nothing, will the Prime Minister finally protect our industries and our workers? The Honourable Minister for Canada-US Trade. Mr. Speaker, once again, I can assure my colleague that we share the concerns of all Canadians when it comes to the negative effects of custom tariffs imposed by America. As I said in an answer just now, Quebec's aluminium industry and the steel industry throughout Canada is one that America depends on. We've had staunch reprisals enacted. We are one of the only countries that had the spine to react, and we will protect workers. The Honourable Member for Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, the touted Liberal magic is not working on Donald Trump, and Quebec is suffering as a result. It's our aluminium and steel that are subject to 50% tariffs now. It's in our forestry sector that we've heard about 2,000 layoffs. And that's not all. Yesterday, we learned that our aerospace industry is being targeted by Washington, D.C., which is considering tariffs by the end of the month. Yet in Ottawa, there's still no support for our key sectors, still no budget. It's still just improvisation. It's been 3 months, Mr. Speaker. We can't just wholeheartedly agree with our concerns. What is the government waiting for to protect Quebec's economy? The Honourable Minister for Industry. Mr. Speaker, obviously we are working every single day to fight against 50% tariffs on steel and aluminium. This morning alone, I met CEOs in the steel industry, and I'm in contact of aluminium CEOs as well. We will continue to fight against these tariffs. We will continue to protect our industries in Quebec and throughout Canada. We will also invest and build, and that is why we will have a strong defence industry to support our jobs here in Canada, and we'll have great national projects, and I hope the Bloc Québécois will vote for. The Honourable Member for Mirabel. Mr. Speaker, with steel and aluminium tariffs doubling and 2,000 jobs lost in the forestry industry, the trade war is escalating. Our industries and our workers need support. They need a budget to be tabled. Yesterday, the speech from the throne was adopted on the condition that at least one economic update be tabled. So today we're asking Liberals to honour their own speech from the throne. Will they keep their word for once and table an economic update with measures that will support Canadians and Quebecers right now? The Honourable Minister for Finance. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank my colleague for his question. Indeed, measures have already been undertaken to support the various sectors of the Canadian economy. We've already provided for measures to be implemented, indeed, to fight against this trade war. Like my colleague said, on this side of the House, have always said we'll fight against tariffs. We are fighting against tariffs. We'll protect industry and workers. We'll build a Canada together, Mr. Speaker. And I'm sure that our Bloc colleagues are happy to build a strong Canada with us.
The honourable member for Hastings, Lennox and Addington.
For years, the Liberals have promised families they will lower the cost of groceries, telling Canadians that relief is coming soon. And for years, they have failed families. Their Prime Minister himself said he will be judged by the price of groceries. Mr. Speaker, the cost of everything, from beef to oranges, up to over 25% since the beginning of this year alone. With an additional $500 billion in spending, adding more fuel to the food and inflationary crisis, why can't this Prime Minister even table a budget?
Honourable Minister for Jobs and Families.
Mr. Speaker, since 2015, child poverty is down by 38%. That's because of programs like the Canada Child Benefit. That's because of programs like the childcare, affordable childcare that is all available all across this country. Mr. Speaker, we are working with families, we are working with youth and with children, and we'll continue to do that work together. We hope the opposition gets on board.
Member for Hastings, Lennox and Addington.
There's nothing to get on board with, Mr. Speaker. Unlike this government, Canadians actually have to budget their money in order to survive. They cannot tax and spend their way out of hunger. After their rent, mortgage and utilities, they are left with fewer dollars than ever to buy the food their families need. And those few dollars aren't going as far as they used to. Canadians are at their wits' end, and they expect and deserve a plan that delivers relief. Mr. Speaker, will this government exercise a modicum of competency and table a spring budget?
The Honourable Minister for Jobs and Families.
You know what, Mr. Speaker? Competency would be not voting against legislation, bills, and programs that actually put food in the stomachs of kids, like the Canada School Nutrition Program that is feeding over 400,000 children this year in partnership with provinces and territories. Every time there is a measure that is put forward by this government to ensure that kids have food, that parents have childcare, that parents have the money they need to raise their kids, this opposition party has voted against it. Let's be honest, Mr. Speaker, they're not there for families.
Honourable member for Long Range Mountains.
Mr. Speaker, Bridges to Hope is a vital food bank in Newfoundland and Labrador that is being forced to double its size due to a 30% increase in demand. This surge reflects the harsh reality that more and more families cannot afford groceries. Beef up 34%, oranges 26%, coffee 9%. Canadians don't have any hope for relief without a clear fiscal plan. Will the Prime Minister finally table a budget that addresses the cost of living crisis and ensures Canadians can put food on their tables?
The Honourable Minister for Jobs and Families.
Mr. Speaker, we've talked about the reduction in child poverty, but you know, for adults, Mr. Speaker, between 18 and 65, it's gone down by 26% since 2015, and that's in large part because of the programs that we've actually put in place to help families. You know, you want to talk about reducing costs of food, Mr. Speaker. The Canada School Food Program reduces costs of groceries on average by $800 a year for every family. So, Mr. Speaker, let's see if they can get on board with programs that really help families.
Honourable member for Long Range Mountains.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians will hold account by their experience at the grocery store. These are the words of the Prime Minister. Single mothers go to the grocery store, walk out with 2 bags of groceries, enough for 2 days. It costs them $100. Now the Liberals are bringing in $500 billion in new spending, increasing it by 8% when they promised to cap it at 2%. Once again, Mr. Speaker, will the Liberals table a spring budget that reduces inflation and cuts taxes so Canadians can afford to feed their families?
The Honourable Minister of Fisheries.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. And you know, it's very important in St. John's and Newfoundland and Labrador that we protect children. And the school food program was such an important initiative. And I found it so disappointing that the opposition voted against it. I hope that when there is an opportunity to vote to support this program that does put food in children's bellies, the opposition and the member across will vote to support food for children.
The honourable member for New Tecumseh, Willenbury.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister has admitted he doesn't do his own grocery shopping. He doesn't even know how much a family of four spends on groceries. So he either doesn't know or care that Canadian families are struggling to put food on the table because of this Liberal government's failure to tackle inflation. Under the Liberals, the most expensive vehicle now in Canada, Mr. Speaker, to operate is the shopping cart. Will the Liberals put forward a budget plan that will lower inflation so Canadians can feed their families?
Honourable Minister for Jobs and Families.
Mr. Speaker, they either can't hear or it's a willful ignorance of their own past behaviour. What we see repeatedly is them, the Conservative Party, voting again and again and again against families, whether it's Canada Child Benefit, whether it's the National School Food Program, whether it's dental care that is providing support to families all across this country and alleviating costs, improving health of Canadians. They vote against it. They're voting against families every single time.
Honourable member for New Tecumseh, Willenbury.
Mr. Speaker, it's the Prime Minister who said, quote, Canadians will hold them accountable based on their experience at the grocery store. Well, their experience is a nightmare, and Canadians are getting fat up. Under this Liberal government, food prices have skyrocketed. But instead of offering a real budget plan, the Liberals are plowing ahead with $500 billion in new spending. Hard-working Canadians are having to foot the bill for this government's runaway deficits every time they shop for groceries. How is this acceptable?
The Honourable Minister for Jobs and Families.
Mr. Speaker, how is it acceptable when a government offers Canada Child Benefit that lifts over almost 500,000 children out of poverty, that the opposition votes against it, that they muse about cutting that program if they were ever to gain office? It's no wonder that Canadians chose us in the last election. They know who has their back. They know who's fighting for them. And these kinds of narratives don't match the reality they see from Conservatives.
The honourable member for Richmond, Arthur Basker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Grocery prices have literally skyrocketed. The Liberals' 10 years of inflationary deficits have unfortunately pushed a record number of Canadians to food banks. I sadly ran into a former classmate at the food bank, my friend Francois. He works, he has a budget, but he still can't make ends meet. Children in Victoriaville in my riding are arriving at school with empty lunchboxes. Luckily, we have community organisations that help them. Will the Liberals finally table a budget that reduces inflation and lowers taxes so that our children can finally go to school with full stomachs? The Honourable Minister for Government Transformation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On the 28th of April, Canadians refused what the Conservatives would have done to make Canada's society regress. They would have cut in childcare benefits. They would have cut the dental care system that is just open for 18 to 64 years old, that's helped millions of Canadians. It's rather uncomfortable seeing them being ready to cut in these services. They should help us. The honourable member for Jonquière. Mr. Speaker, in my region, Rémabec has announced the layoff of 2,000 workers for an indefinite period. First, the Bloc Québécois would like to express its solidarity with the families affected. Mr. Speaker, for years we've been saying that the forestry industry needs liquidity access programs. For years we have said that we need to support local secondary and tertiary processing to add more value in the forestry sector. For years we've been saying that Ottawa must be required to favour wood products in its public construction and renovation contracts. 2,000 jobs lost in my region. What will it take for the government to finally act? The Honourable Minister for Industry. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. the forestry industry is essential, and the Minister for Natural Resources and myself will work on this question. It will be a great joy for us to work with the member for the Bloc Québécois in order to protect and create jobs in his riding throughout Canada and throughout Quebec, where regions are being affected by the tariff wars, as is the case for the forestry industry. We will work on solutions, and we are ready to talk with my honourable colleague because we have solutions that are ready for him. Thank you very much. The honourable member for Saint-Hyacinthe, Bagot-Acton. Mr. Speaker, the layoffs in the forestry industry illustrate what will happen to steel and aluminium if Ottawa does not change its formula. In other words, do nothing at all. We know it's not their trademark, but for once the Liberals could be proactive. Proactive in providing liquidity to the industry, proactive by creating a wage subsidy to prevent waves of layoffs. With tariffs doubling yesterday, is there any way, for once, for Ottawa to act before factories close and jobs disappear? The Honourable Minister for Industry. Contrary to my colleague, who just wants to shout and clamour, we actually want to bring solutions, and that's why I'm looking forward to potentially working with him. We have solutions on the table. We have provisions to help company liquidity. That's why today I talked with the steel industry CEOs to talk about what's available. So let us work together and let's be constructive, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Fundy Royal.
Mr. Speaker, Atlantic Canadians are suffering under a Liberal government that has allowed housing costs to double and housing inflation to rise faster in Canada than in any other G7 country. In Halifax, homelessness has doubled in just the last 2 years. Over 1,100 in the city are homeless, and 123 of those at least are children. These children do not want more government bureaucracy. They want a place to call home. When will this Prime Minister understand that doing more of the same is actually going to make the problem worse?
The Honourable Minister of Housing and Infrastructure.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Thank you for the question. And homelessness is a huge challenge right across the country. And we face a huge challenge in tackling that with affordable housing. We need to be working with the cities and towns, with First Indigenous communities to make sure we are delivering. There's a reason we have a new government here, a new cabinet that's focused on building Canada. Focused first and foremost on building affordable housing for the people who need it the most. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Fundy Royal.
Mr. Speaker, the same old government with the same old failed solutions. This housing crisis didn't just happen. It's the direct result of 10 years of Liberal government mismanagement. After only a decade, rent in Canada has doubled. The amount required for a down payment to buy a home has doubled. Mortgages have doubled. The dream of owning a home in Canada is slipping away for many Canadians. When will this minister understand that doing more of the same and having the same failed policies is not going to result in a solution for Canadians?
The Honourable Secretary of State. The Honourable Secretary of State for the Canada Revenue Agency and Financial Institutions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thanks to the member opposite for the question. Mr. Speaker, I'm blessed to have the opportunity to answer questions in this House. But, Mr. Speaker, the member opposite would have a lot more credibility if he didn't vote against the Wrapping Housing Initiative, the Federal Co-Investment Fund, the Housing Accelerator Fund that is community wanted. Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives hold themselves up as stewards of housing. They are not. They voted against every housing initiative that we put forward to help Canadians. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Pitt Meadows, Maple Ridge.
Mr. Speaker, housing has become unaffordable under this Liberal government. According to CMHC, over half of Canadians are struggling to pay down their mortgages. 63% are worried about defaulting. 17% have missed a payment. 26% are using credit to pay off credit. In Greater Vancouver, homeowners are stressed out and not sure how they're going to make ends meet. Will the Minister of Housing acknowledge that Liberal economic incompetence has created this crisis and that we're halfway through the year and we still haven't got a budget?
The Honourable Minister of Housing and Infrastructure.
Mr. Speaker, Speaker, well, contrary to conservative disinformation, housing starts are up across the country right now. We are seeing both year-over-year increase in housing starts and certainly a large increase over when the leader of the Conservative Party was housing minister.
Right. That's excellent.
We are going to take this forward, Mr. Speaker, with the most ambitious housing plan that's ever been seen in Canada. We are going to build affordable housing across this country.
Honourable member for Simcoe Grey.
Mr. Speaker, a new TD report says a Liberal housing plan to build 500,000 homes a year is likely to fall well short. But that's really no surprise, since this promise comes from the same party which said it would plant 2 billion trees. TD says even 400,000 homes a year is not possible, since housing starts in Canada actually declined by 30,000 units this year. Mr. Speaker, without a budget, there is no real plan for housing. Right. When will this government table a budget so Canadians can know if this latest Liberal promise will allow them to afford a roof over their head?
Great. Here.
The Honourable Minister of Housing and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, this new government is taking action on housing affordability with a GST cut for new home buyers. And we appreciate the support around the House for that initiative to make housing more affordable.
Excellent.
But we're going to go a lot farther than that. We have to revolutionize how we build housing in this country with modular, off-site construction to make our industry more efficient, to deliver the housing faster, greener, and cheaper. Thank you.
L'honorable député de Portneuf.
The Honourable Member for Portneuf, Jacques Cartier. Mr. Speaker, buying a home is a dream for many young Canadians, but according to the CMHC, they are worried. They're looking at their budget, and 63% of them are worrying that they might default on their mortgage. The main reason for that being the increase in the cost of living. Instead of flying by the seat of its pants, this Liberal government should draw inspiration from our young people. Like them, it should make a budget. Will the government table a budget this spring, as a majority of members in this House are asking for?
L'honorable ministre de la Transformation.
The Honourable Minister of Government Transformation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, I'll start by saying that one of our government's first actions was to cut taxes for 22 million Canadians. On average, $840 cut per family. We are very proud of that direct, concrete measure to help Canadians and make life more affordable. But we didn't stop there. We eliminated the GST on a first home purchase of a new home, and that enabled first-time buyers to better access property. And what's really shocking is that the Conservative Party can't even support programs that help Canadians in his own riding, like the child benefit or the dental care program.
Mr. Speaker, the offshore energy in Newfoundland and Labrador brings tremendous economic benefit to our province. It creates jobs, opportunity, and prosperity for the people of Newfoundland and Labrador. This sector has grown with some of the strongest environmental protections in the world, ensuring economic growth alongside a healthy environment. What is the view of the Minister of Energy and Natural Resources on the development of offshore energy in Newfoundland and Labrador?
The Honourable Minister of Energy and Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the Honourable Member from Avalon for his question. Our government supports the development of offshore energy in Newfoundland and Labrador. Offshore energy is one of Canada's great strengths. It supports the people in the province with good wages, opportunities while developing it in a sustainable way. We will fast-track offshore energy projects to build the strongest economy in the G7. And go Oilers!
The Honourable Member for Airdrie Cochrane.
Words don't build pipelines, actions do. Actions like scrapping Trudeau's Bill C-69, his West Coast shipping ban, the industrial carbon tax, the Liberal energy cap. But the radical NDP Premier and the radicals in this Liberal cabinet are doing all that they can to keep these policies in place and to block pipelines from getting built. So will the Prime Minister reverse all these Trudeau-era policies and make sure that he shows that he isn't just another wolf in sheep's clothing looking to kill our oil and gas industry?
The Honourable Minister of Energy and Natural Resources.
Canadians have told us they want us to build and retool our economy. The PM has been clear. The PM has been clear. They want us to We want to build a low-cost, low-risk, low-carbon economy. Canadians will build the infrastructure that makes us the strongest economy in the G7.
Honourable member for Airdrie Cochrane.
Well, he can use all the nice words he wants, but they mean nothing without action. And nothing gets built without removing the barriers. Trudeau's C-69, his West Coast shipping ban, his oil and gas cap, the industrial carbon tax. This Prime Minister claimed that he's the man with the plan, but his plan for the oil and gas sector seems to be the same anti-energy approach as Justin Trudeau. It's time for the Prime Minister to be honest with Canadians. If he can't even find consensus amongst his own cabinet, how is he going to approve a pipeline?
Hear, hear. Honourable Minister of the Environment and Climate Change.
Mr. Speaker, you know what gets things built? Working with the premiers from all the provinces and territories like we saw on Monday. We've heard from Canadians. Canadians want to see us build Canada in the face of what we're seeing of tariffs from Donald Trump. And that is exactly what we're doing. We're going to build a strong economy. We're going to be the strongest economy in the G7, and that's because we're sitting with the premiers and we're not taking advice from them.
Honorable député de Beauce.
The Honourable Member for Beauce. Mr. Speaker, there is a clear consensus. There are more and more calls to build pipelines and energy infrastructure. Quebecers and people from Beauce want pipelines. The only obstacle is the federal government. If we build energy projects, we'll reduce our dependence on the U.S., strengthen the Canadian economy, and help Canadians earn more. We need to repeal anti-energy legislation. Why is this Liberal government making Canadians poorer? The Honourable Minister of the Environment and Climate Change. Mr. Speaker, Canadians have been very clear. They want us to build a strong country, a strong economy. And what did we see on Monday? We saw exactly that. The Prime Minister sat down with all of the premiers in the country and talked about what we're facing from the U.S. They talked about how to build a stronger economy together. We will not be taking any lessons from the Conservatives on this.
Nose Hill.
Speaker, the Liberals promised to cap foreign study permits, which also allow people to work in Canada. But new data shows that the Liberals blew their cap out of the water by handing out a whopping 500,000 foreign study permits last year, roughly the same population as all of Halifax. Why did the Liberals bring 500,000 foreign students to Canada during a massive housing shortage and while youth in Canada can't find jobs?
The Honourable Minister of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for that question. Those figures are inaccurate. It's misinformation. This new government is hard at work to improve our immigration system, and the introduction of Bill C-2 Tuesday was an example of that. We are taking significant steps to preserve the integrity of our system while also upholding our humanitarian commitments, because we understand a well-managed immigration system is essential to a safer, stronger Canada.
The Honourable Member for Calgary Nose Hill.
So I got those numbers from the minister's website. I went on the website and I read them. So in the middle of a housing crisis, she brought 500,000 people to Canada. These people compete with Canadians for jobs, require housing and health care. If her department's numbers aren't the real numbers, what are the real numbers?
The Honourable Minister of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship.
Mr. Speaker, let me give the opposite member a lesson on immigration and on numbers and on permits of visa. There's many applications and many individuals. We recognize that to balance our immigration and to have a good country, we need temporary and we need permanent residents. Some applicants have multiple numbers, and so therefore I would suggest that we look into those numbers a little bit more in detail. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Oxford.
Mr. Speaker, despite the Liberals promising Canadians that they're capping immigration, here are the facts.
They added over 500,000 more international students. They approved nearly 180,000 more temporary foreign workers. And now we have millions in our country with expired or expiring visas and no plan on how they'll leave. Their mismanagement has put pressure on housing, on healthcare, and jobs. So after missing their own targets to lower immigration and losing control of the system, why should Canadians believe them anymore?
Yeah, that's right.
The Honourable Minister of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship.
Mr. Speaker, international students are vital to Canada. Just go ask any of our provinces and any of our institutions. So are our temporary foreign workers. They are essential to our agricultural centre, to our fishing centre, to many facets of our population. Having said that, we understand in this new government that we need a balanced system. And for that reason, we have lowered the number of permanent residents as well as temporary numbers. We understand how to balance and how to work efficiently with our system. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent Akiawenrak. Mr. Speaker, successful immigration is essential for the development of our country. But unfortunately, for the last 10 years, we have not had a successful immigration system. Instead, we've had an irresponsible system. And the real victims are immigrants themselves. For example, we can see that 5 million immigrants are currently dealing with expired visas. How is the government going to ensure that everything works out for them and for the country? The Honourable Minister of Immigration. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On this side of the House, we understand very well that immigration is essential for the growth of our economy and in order to strengthen our communities. Canadians want a solid, sustainable immigration system that would enable Canada and everyone who comes here to succeed. And on this side of the House, we are working hard to improve the system and make Canada stronger. The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent Akiawenrak. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to congratulate the Minister on her French, but that's where my congratulations end. The situation we're facing right now, they are the architects of the problems in our immigration system. They have been the architects of this system for 10 years, and even the King said in the throne speech that we need to bring balance back to the system. Now, when we said that 6 months ago, everyone called us intolerant. As we speak, our housing, education, and health systems cannot meet our current immigration needs. Why did the Liberal government let this human tragedy persist? The Honourable Minister of Government Transformation. Mr. Speaker, it is true that we need a balanced immigration system that is realistic about our capacity in Quebec and Canada. That is why we are gradually reducing immigration thresholds. We have also placed restrictions on visas. But we have his colleague for Oshawa North, who has said that we need to completely scrap the temporary foreign workers program. Meanwhile, his constituents, my colleague's constituents, are telling us that they need these temporary workers in order to keep our factories running throughout Quebec. Thank you.
Member for Kamloops, Thompson, Nicola.
700,000 doses of fentanyl, 32 illegal guns, 7 people on bail. These are the statistics from a recent raid just yesterday in York. I commend the police for doing such a good job. Hear, hear. I also condemn these Liberals for allowing this sort of crime to flourish in Canada. Indeed, catch and release is live and well in Canada. So why don't these Liberals accept the Conservative plan to end catch and release so we can crack down on gun and fentanyl traffickers?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Secretary of State for Combating Crime.
Mr. Speaker, like I've said before, we are committed to making it tougher for violent criminals to get bail and we will impose stricter sentences for repeat violent offenders. But let me be clear, Mr. Speaker, the provinces and territories have a critical role to play in the administration of bail. They must ensure that they have the capacity needed when it comes to prosecutors, judges, JPs, jails, just to name a few things. This is imperative in order to get our streets safe. The law currently says that people who are at risk of reoffending or a flight risk should not be given.
The honourable member for Burnaby Central.
Mr. Speaker, illegal fishing in international waters lead to damage here at home and abroad. In the Pacific Ocean, dark vessels fish indiscriminately, using illegal gear and catching endangered and at-risk species. This hurts wild Pacific salmon, as well as global supply chain that we and our allies rely on. Can the Minister of Fisheries tell us what Canada's new government is doing to combat illegal fishing in international water?
Honourable Minister of Fisheries.
Speaker, illegal fishing is appalling. And that's why Canada has taken a key role in the fight through Operation North Pacific Guard. Our expertly trained fisheries officers and Canadian Coast Guard crew are currently working to ensure that we disrupt the activities that lead to illegal fishing. I'm also pleased to say that the crew of the Sir Wilfrid Laurier are currently engaged in this mission. And to the crew of the Wilfrid Laurier, I wish you fair seas and following winds.
Member for Kildonan and St. Paul.
Mr. Speaker, we learned some disturbing news today. A Liberal cabinet minister from Manitoba has been found to have a serious history of harassment and unprofessional conduct in the workplace. A former subordinate said they endured humiliation, intimidation, and months of psychological warfare by this minister in her previous job. This is obviously completely unacceptable and unworthy of a minister of the Crown. The Prime Minister decides who sits around the cabinet table, so was he unaware of this disturbing history of workplace abuse, or did he know and just didn't care?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, my colleague is obviously committed to fostering a healthy work environment for everyone in the workplace, characterized by collegiality and mutual respect, and that's what we have to say on the matter. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Kildonan and St. Paul.
Mr. Speaker, the victim's experience was substantiated by independent review conducted by a law firm, and many people have been victims of workplace bullying, and few have the courage to speak out, but this brave woman did, and she attempted to contact the Liberal Party, who didn't even dignify her with a response. So really, what message does this send to victims, that if your boss engages of months of psychological warfare, the Prime Minister of Canada may promote them to the highest offices in the land? Truly, this is an unacceptable standard, or does the Prime Minister disagree? Does he believe this is acceptable?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Speaker, my colleague is a person of integrity who has been involved in public service on many levels, who has opted to serve her constituents and the public in this way. She's committed to healthy workplaces. She's committed to respect. She's committed to compassion, and she will be working hard to deliver results for her constituents, the people of Manitoba, and indeed all Canadians.
Member for Aurora, Oak Ridges, Richmond Hill.
Mr. Speaker, after 10 years of the Liberal government's catch and release policies, Canadian communities are riddled with rising and record crime. People are waking up in the morning hopeful that their car will still be in the driveway. Car thefts have hit record highs in municipalities like Aurora and Richmond Hill. Even worse, violent crimes like home invasions and blatant smash and grab robberies have become a regular occurrence in the Greater Toronto area. Mr. Speaker, when will these Liberals finally focus on the safety of our communities and ensure jail before bail for violent criminals?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Combating Crime.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I want to take an opportunity to say today we are debating C2, one of the first measures this government has taken to making our streets safer. We are committed to doing the work that's necessary, and there's also good news. The Chief of Toronto has stated that auto thefts have decreased by nearly 39%, home invasions down 42%, homicides down 67%, and shootings down 46%. Mr. Speaker, we will be there to protect Canadians.
Honourable Member for New Westminster, Burnaby, Myardville.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the people of New Westminster, Burnaby, Millardville for the incredible work they do, both locally and globally. In my riding, I've seen organizations having real impact, from small businesses like HoC Ukrainian Eatery to faith-based groups like Gurdwara Sahib Sukh Sagar. It's organizations like these that play a huge role in the community. Can the Minister please share how our government is supporting groups like these to continue making a difference?
The Honourable Secretary of State for International Development.
Supporting small and medium-sized Canadian organizations is a top priority for our new government. Organizations like Cooperation Canada, Nutrition International, and the Humanitarian Coalition are just some of those bringing Canadian expertise to communities that need it most. With tens of thousands of Canadians working in this sector, these efforts create jobs at home and build a stronger, self-sufficient partners abroad. I've been meeting with sector leaders and will keep working with them to ensure every dollar has maximum impact.
Member for St. John, St. Croix.
Mr. Speaker, a convicted child sex offender in New Brunswick recently was sentenced to jail. But instead of going to prison, he was released back into the community on bail pending his appeal. He's now living just 600 meters from a school. The community is shocked Canada's justice system is so soft on crime. Parents are deeply worried. The victim's family feels betrayed. Will the minister finally admit that Canada's bail laws are broken and fix the loopholes to stop convicted child sex offenders from receiving bail?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Combating Crime.
Mr. Speaker, once again, I'd like to say the bill that we have tabled and are debating today is going to make it easier for our policing authorities to be able to catch predators of child exploitation. But like I've said before, Mr. Speaker, we're committed to making it tougher for violent criminals to get bail, and we're going to impose stricter sentences for repeat offenders. But like I've said before, Mr. Speaker, the provinces have a huge role to play in the administration of justice, and bail is given by provincial courts. They must do their part as well. The current law states that people who are at risk to the public...
The Honourable Member for Vancouver Kingsway.
The Parliamentary Budget Officer has examined this government's fiscal commitments, and he's warning that the numbers just don't add up. Among his troubling findings, the PBO says there's no way the Liberals can meet their spending targets without, quote, severe cuts to public service. Mr. Speaker, federal services provide critical supports to Canadians across the country, especially needed in this time of economic crisis and threats from Donald Trump. Will this government come clean and admit that they can't keep the promises they've made to Canadians?
L'Honorable Ministre des Finances.
I'd like to thank my colleague for his very important question. We are very committed to present a very responsible fiscal framework, a framework that will build Canada, Mr. Speaker, in a responsible way, in a sustainable way, and that's going to make Canada strong. And I'm delighted to see that the member is considering voting in favor of a bill that's going to be presented in this House that's going to make a difference for 22 million Canadians. Mr. Speaker, I would say that would be a great start for the NDP to follow the Liberals in voting for Canadians.
Honourable Member for Winnipeg Centre.
Mr. Speaker, tens of thousands of good-paying jobs are being threatened by 50% tariffs on steel in the auto, aerospace, and building sector. The Prime Minister said he would stand up to Trump.
But, Mr. Speaker, we cannot trust the Liberals. There's no Minister of Labour. They are forcing people back to work, and they want to replace workers by artificial intelligence.
Speaker, why won't the government reform EI and income supports and place countermeasures on U.S. steel to protect workers?
The Honourable Minister for Jobs and Families.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And maybe the member opposite missed the announcement where this government already took action to change EI to make it easier for workers that are impacted by unfair and illegal tariffs to access the EI, including waiving the one-week period, Mr. Speaker, keeping their earnings, and making sure that people can access EI in areas where unemployment is growing. We'll continue to work on EI and make sure that it serves the needs of workers who are deeply impacted in these difficult times.
Well done.
And that does it for question period. The Honourable Member for Berthier-Masquinongé was standing first.
Mr. Speaker, if you seek it, you will find that there is unanimous consent for the following motion. I move that, notwithstanding any standing order or usual practice of the House, Bill C-202, an act to amend the Foreign Affairs, Trade and Development Department, Supply Management, be deemed read a second time and sent to Committee of the Whole, deemed studied in Committee of the Whole, deemed having been made into a report without amendment, deemed read a third time, and passed. Will all those opposed to what the honourable member is moving please say nay? Noted. This House has heard the terms of the motion. Will all those opposed to the motion please say nay? Carried.
Yes. Excuse me, a point of order from, is that a point of order from the, is it a point of order from the honourable member for Calgary Knowles Hill?
Mr. Speaker, earlier in question period and debate, the minister accused me of misleading the House. I'd like permission to table the date I referred to that was from her website. It might help her out. I can deliver it by page if that's what she would like. It's
consent, unfortunately. There's no consent. I believe at this time the Leader of the Official Opposition has a question for the Government House Leader.
That's right, Mr. Speaker. And it being the first Thursday that I've had the opportunity to do this, I'd like to welcome my counterpart back to this role. We've worked together in the past, and while we definitely don't agree on much, we do have a great working relationship on behalf of our two parties who represent the millions of Canadians that vote for us. So I look forward to continuing that constructive work together and criticism for sure in the weeks and months ahead. I would like to know if the Government House Leader can update the House as to what the business of the House might be for the rest of this week and next week. We know that they put some bills on notice. They've introduced some legislation. And I wonder if you could tell the House if, along with finally adopting the Conservative policy of scrapping the consumer carbon tax, if you will do two things. One,